Okay, good morning everyone. In the previous class, we have completed our discussion on the product life cycle. These are the stages we have seen in the product development, product introduction, growth, product maturity, product retirement, and then we have discussed about the hmm, one example on a washing machine, which is an application-specific embedded system. Okay, in that we have discussed what all the components are there inside that. Then we'll move on to this automotive domain specific embedded system. And one more information is I have shared the test syllabus with the CR. I think she has shared the syllabus. Complete third module will be there in the module 2, second chapter, which is on ARM assembly. And in the module 4, the first chapter. Okay. This is the one in the module 2, ARM programming using the assembly language. Complete module 3 will be there. And in the module 4, the characteristics and quality attributes of the embedded system. In that, two types, operational and non-operational quality attributes. Till here will be there for your second internals, and the remaining part will be there for your third internals. Okay, is the syllabus clear? Hello, am I audible? Hello. Okay. Okay, then we'll continue with this automotive domain specific embedded system. See, this automotive is nothing but automatically some of the work will be done by a component without the human interaction. That is what we are talking about, this automotive embedded system. That too specifically with the car as an example we are going to discuss. Inside the car, how many automotive embedded systems will be there? Okay, in a normal vehicle, whenever if you see, there will be around in an ordinary vehicle. Ordinary vehicle means cost which is less than 5 to 6 lakhs. You will get almost 20 to 40 embedded controllers. Embedded different controllers will be there. If you go for the higher end, there in the in Mercedes or BMW, everything is automatic, right? There you will see almost more than 100 embedded controllers will be there. What is this automatic, which is called as, which we are going to call it as an automatic? I'm talking about power steering. The power steering, it will be internally connected to an one control unit, automotive control unit. ABS, anti-lock braking system, you know, right? Airbag controller, your power windows, wiper controller, all your mirror control, seat control, headlamp, the latest is the sunroofs, everything. All these will comes under the automotive embedded systems. All these embedded systems, in turn, in the background, there will be an electronic control unit. Okay. For us, they will give you one button. If I just press on the button, automatically wiper is going to on. Door will automatically it is going to lock. Power windows will automatically close. Okay, all this is going to happen because of the automotive embedded system which is there in the background, that we are going to discuss here. Means in this automotive embedded system, in the background there should be a control unit which is called as an embedded control unit. These embedded control units There are two types. In terms of the speed which you are going to classify, one is high speed, another one is low speed. Which is called as high speed means if you use that embedded system, there should be a faster response. Time is the critical factor in which we are going to check the time factor. It is the engine control, ABS. When I press on the brake, automatically the brake should be applied. It should be a faster response. Okay. Automatic control unit, power steering. If you just move to the left or the right, okay, for steering. If it takes some time to rotate, then I think it is a problem. It will create more damage. Okay. That is why there should be a faster response. Whenever you move left, it should the wheel should move to the left, or when you turn right, the wheel should move turn right. There should be a faster response. It can be the engine control, ABS, or any other central control unit. Okay, all these things it will in the background you will have a high speed electronic control unit. What about the low speed, which in the low speed electronic control units, the time is not is a main factor. Means the example is wiper. Whenever you press, if there is a delay of 1 or 2 seconds, it doesn't create any problems. Okay, the audio controller, passive, the door locks, door glass controllers, wiper controller, mirror, everything. These will all come under the low speed electronic unit. Okay, all in all these things, the processor or the microcontroller which is there in the electronic unit, the cost is less. When you pay cost is less means you will get a low speed unit. Whenever you pay more, you will get high speed unit. Okay, this is what the electronics units which will be there in the background. All these control units, they are connected with the buses. For communication, you require buses, right? Communication bus. In the automotive, which are the communication bus are provided, which is the bus they are going to be provided. These are the buses. Three main, which is so popular communication buses they are going to use in the automotive. See here, always we use serial buses instead of parallel buses or any other different types of buses. We use serial buses in the automotive embedded system. The reason behind using the serial bus is it takes less wiring. The amount of the wiring that will be reduced inside a vehicle. That is why we are going to use serial bus compared to the other different types of buses. The one which is popular is CAN, Controller Area Network. This is the name of a bus, okay, which is a serial bus. If you use the bus, use this bus, what is the speed? It will come in two variants. One is medium speed, another one is high speed. The medium speed bus, it is the 125 kilobits per second. If you get an high speed CAN bus, you will get 1 megabits per second. Data transfer I'm talking about in that bus. Who has introduced this controller area network CAN buses? It is come from the Bosch company, Robert Bosch. He is the one who is proposed this CAN bus for the automotive embedded systems. Okay, the speed is 125 kilobits on the medium speed, and the high speed is 1 megabits per second data transfer. Okay, see then this CAN bus, where they exactly use in our cars, in the airbag control. In the airbag control, there will be a control unit. In that control unit, they use this CAN buses, or in the engine control, or in the ABS, or in the navigation system like GPS. In all these places, they use these CAN buses, where they require more than 125 kilobits or up to 1 Mbps speed they require. That is why they use CAN bus. If they need the data transfer speed very less than around some 20 kbps or 30 kbps, if they require that much, then they'll go for second one, local interconnect network. I think the information is clear about the CAN. The CAN provides, it can comes in two different speeds, 125 kilobits and 1 megabits per second data transfer speed. Okay, where they exactly use it? In the airbags, in the engine control, ABS, navigation systems. Okay, who has introduced? It was introduced by Robert Bosch. See, whenever there is a data transfer, this CAN, how it is so special is, it will support error handling mechanism also. During the transfer, if there is any data loss, it is going to correct it once again. That is why I said error handling mechanism is also there in this CAN. Okay, if you want a lower speed bus, that is called as local interconnect network, LIN. Whatever, how much data rate you can expect is 20 kbps. Uh, the low speed buses where it is required, mirror controls, fan control, seat positioning, window controls. At these places where the time is not a factor at all, response time is not a big factor here. There they use this simple LIN, local interconnect network. This bus, if you see, it will work like a single master, multiple slaves. In that way, it will be, uh, the interface will look like that, a single master, multiple slaves. How many multiple slaves it can connect? Up to 16 slave nodes it can connect. If you use LIN bus, LIN is local interconnect network. If you use that type of bus, in that way it is going to work, which is of low speed compared to CAN. The last one, media oriented system transport bus. If you use this, see, this is a, a popular and a very high bandwidth network, very high bandwidth automotive networking, where they exactly use it for multimedia, for audio video transmissions. There they exactly use these type of buses. See, primarily when where they have started using this is, it was used in the European cars. In the Europe, when the cars were manufactured, they used to use this MOST buses. Now it is used everywhere. What technology which is there in the behind this media-oriented system transport bus is, they use optic fire cables. When they use optic fire, what is the advantage? More speed. The topology they use is star ring or daisy chain topology they use. That is why they got more speed, more bandwidth. Hmm? Remember, most, which is the most advanced and high bandwidth, they uses optical fire cables, and they use a star ring or daisy chain topology. Okay, these are the three different types of buses. Is it clear about the buses and the different types of control units? Any doubts? Any doubts on the bus, different types of buses or control unit? Renuka, can you unmute yourself? Renuka, 19 CS80, 4JN 19 CS80. Okay, thank you. Any doubts on these buses? No? Okay. Next, in the market, who is going to sell the components which are required for automotive embedded systems? I'm talking about the uh, the key players of the automotive embedded system. Means who is going to sell these components which are required to develop these automotive embedded systems? See, the silicon providers means the components which are required for developing and control application development, the necessary chips, means the silicon providers, we call it as the one of the silicon providers. The company is Analog Devices from Analog. The company is Analog. The website is there, www.analog.com. Means that they are the providers of digital signal processing chips, Analog Devices. There is a Xilinx. There is a vendor called Xilinx, www.xilinx.com. If you go and check, if from that company you are going to get uh, the gate arrays, FB field programmable gate arrays, the specific IPs for GPS navigation system or collision avoidance, voice recognitions, all these things, high performances, they are going to get from the Xilinx vendor. One is Analog Devices, that is one company. Xilinx is another company. Atmel, ATMEL, Atmel. This is a supplier of flash controllers and memories. Okay, the Atmel company, which is very famous for high performance microcontrollers, namely ARM. Okay, Atmel is a very famous company which provides this high performance microcontrollers. That is also a vendor of an automotive embedded systems. And one more, Maxim Dallas. They also provide analog digital products, microcontrollers, amplifiers, comparators, regulators, everything. Maxim Dallas. And so many other companies are there like Texas Investors, Freescale Semiconductors, Microchip, Infineon, Renesas, NXP Semiconductor, means which is from the Philips. All these, they are going to provide these electronic chips which are required for the automotive market. One more, this is the raw components. One more is tools and platform providers. Tools and platform means where exactly we are going to develop, like Keel software, what you use. Okay, Keel is the company that is going to provide the software. There is an integrated development environment, Keel Microvision from Keel software. That is the one we are going to use it for developing the softwares for the ARM. One more is MATLAB you can use from the MAT company. That is one tool. There is one more ENEA, ENA Embedded Technology. That can be that company. It is a developer of real-time operating system. Okay, Microsoft is there. Using this Microsoft, it is just a platform where we are going to design embedded applications. Okay, these are the tools and platforms. Tools means MATLABs, Keels, Atego modeling tools. Platforms means your Microsoft. Okay, these are the tools and platforms where you are going to develop the yeah, units which are required for the embedded systems. One more, a complete solutions they are going to provide, which is the company which is going to provide the complete solution for the embedded systems. One is Bosch. From the Bosch company, you are going to get complete automotive solutions. From the Bosch, you can get diesel engine control, gasoline engine control, safety systems, car navigation systems, entertainment. All these things you can get from the Bosch company. One more, Denso Automotive Company. From that company, you are going to get a driving and control safety, hybrid vehicles, communication components, climate control. See, all these things means I'm not talking about a single component, a complete component Complete solution for the problem you are going to get from that company. Complete on embedded systems from that Denso company, Bosch company, from the even from the Infosys you are going to get. Even Infosys is a solution provider for automotive embedded hardwares and the softwares. Okay, these are the solution providers, the different solution providers. Tools and platforms are Microsoft, Keel Software, MATLAB, all those things. Then, whatever which are the silicon providers means so many different companies I told. Uh, One is Analog Devices, Xilinx, Maximum Dallas, NXP Semiconductor, Infineon, Freescale Semiconductor, Microchip. These are the different companies. They provide different components. Okay. Next, we'll move on to the design stage. How we are going to design the components, hardware and software. What are the problems which comes during the design stage? How we are going to select the hardware and software? All those things that we are going to discuss. Okay. See, there are 4 chapters. I'll show with the syllabus itself. See, there are 4 chapters which are there. Chapter 3, Chapter 4, Chapter 7 and Chapter 9. This Chapter 3 will discuss about characteristics and quality attributes. This Chapter 4 discusses on applications and domain specific, means about the washing machine and the automotive embedded systems. That is Chapter 4. Now we are going to move on to this Chapter 7, which is of hardware, software, co-design and program modeling. Okay, this is the one we are starting now. How we are going to select hardware, software, how parallelly we have to design, and which are the models we are going to use. Program modeling. Okay. Do you have any doubts in this washing machines example and the automotive embedded systems? Before we moving on to the next chapter, do you have any doubts? No? Yes? If any topic which I want to repeat it once again, no problem, I'll repeat. Just tell me which is the topic I want to repeat, or if you don't have any doubts, you can message me that there is no doubts. I'll continue. No doubts? Are you there? Students, are you there? Okay, okay. Okay. Now we'll move on to this hardware software co-design. See, what is this is all about is, see, there will be a separate engineers. We are the software engineers. We are going to develop a software for an embedded system. There are some mechanical engineers are there. They are going to design hardware components. Then what happens now? Both the hardwares and softwares are ready. Already it has taken too much time. Now we have to integrate it. Why we have to integrate? We want to develop one embedded system. If you want to develop an embedded system, once the completion of the development of the hardware, software, whether it is parallelly or serially, it takes too much time to coming to the market because there is too much of competition in the commercial market, and the time to market and any embedded system should take very less. Okay, we have to reduce it. Time to market, there is huge competition. If you develop it separately, both the hardware team separately and software team without any interaction, if they develop separately both the components, you cannot compete in the commercial market, and there will be a too much of time it takes to market the component. The product will not become success. For that, what we should do is hardware and software parallelly we have to design. That is called this co-design. The name of the chapter hardware software co-design is, that is what, if you use this co-design process, if you follow the co-design process, at the same time you can capture the product requirements from the customer and you can convert them into system level or processing requirements. Now, in the same time, you can segregate what is the hardware requirement and what is the software requirement. Finally, we are going to call that as a functional requirement. Whenever we take the requirements from the customers, okay, what we do is the hardware team separately they will get a requirements, software team separately they will get a requirements, they will start developing. If they do in that way, I said there is a problem. Time to market, competition. Okay. Instead of that, what we are going to do is, whenever we collect the requirements, instead of calling them as an hardware requirement and software requirement, we call it as a functional requirement of an embedded system. Now, if we follow in that way, co-design means parallelly the hardware and software team there will be an interaction and they will start designing both the hardware and software required for any embedded system. In that way, if they start designing and developing, what are the problems they will face, what are the issues they will face, that is what we have to discuss. Fundamental issues that is going to arise when they develop hardware and software parallelly. Now there is an interaction. Both the teams, hardware team and software team, parallelly they will start working and they will design. During this stage, what is the problem? The problem which is going to arise is at these stages, which is the model we have to select to develop, which architecture we should select in order to develop, which is the programming language we should use, and how to uh, partition our system requirements into an hardware and the software. These are all the different problems uh, that is going to arise. Which model, which architecture, which programming language, all those things that we have to select. Okay, we'll start one by one. We know this programming language and we know about the architecture. Okay, first we should know what is this model, what exactly this model is going to do. See, I'll show one example. Okay, see, this is one model. For what purpose we use the model is, in that model, if you see, you will get the system characteristics. That system model, it is going to capture the system characteristics. In that one model which I am showing is this data flow. Second one, here what you see, it is a control flow. One more if you see is, this is state machine. All these are different models. See here, if you see this example, this model, what information you are going to get? There is a user, he is going to order. Whenever he order, he place the order here. In the place process order, if you go for billing information, you will get the invoices. Whenever there is a order information, see all these, the shipping, the products, fulfillment, What exactly you are going to get from the data flow model? You are going to get the what is the flow of information, how the information flow in any system, that we are going to represent in terms of rectangles, circles, arrows. Okay, we use this a data flow model which shows the flow of information. In the same way, there is one more control. This is the control flow graph or control data flow graph. See, if then, if else, it will be represented like this. If this or else, while, when it exits, it go, do while, for loop. Okay. If this is the case, if A equals 10, then if B equal greater than C. See, right, this is one simple example of this control flow. This is a flow chart, and this is a control flow graph. Okay. And if you see this example, a coffee vending machine, this is a state machine. Means each one is a state. Whenever you go to the vending machine and if you insert a coin, you will select the option, then coffee will be dispensed. After that, it will be in the idle stage. Once the user comes, he'll insert the coin. Now it is in the coin inserted stage. Then the user selects the option. Now option selected stage. The coffee will be dispensed. When the coffee is given to the user, it will be in the idle state. These are the different states. In different states, the machine will be present. This is the human option. Means it can be the inputs or it can be the output. Okay. This is state diagram. The problem for the developer is which model we have to select. Selecting the model, whether I should choose data flow diagram, data flow model, or the state machine, or control data flow graph, which one I have to choose for my hardware software co-design. There is no hard and fast rule that we have to select state machine itself or we have to use control data flow diagram. This decision, it is going to change during the process. It is very hard to make a decision on which model should be followed for a particular system design. See, all these things, it will come during the design stage because everything we have to document. All the requirements you have to document that requirements that we have to convert it into some models during the design stage. I think you have learned this in the software engineering, the different stages. Okay. Requirements, it is in terms of sentences. That is in the requirement stage. When it goes to the design stage, everything should be converted into a model. Which model should select, that is a big decision. They are going to change. Often the designers who is going to design, they are going to switch between the different types of models from the requirement stage to implementation aspects. It 100% it is going to vary. Once he is an expert in all these areas, he may be perfect in selecting the models, but others, they are going to do all the trial and errors. The next one is the problem is with the architecture. Which architecture I have to follow during this stage? What is architecture is nothing but inside an embedded system, how many components I have to use, how many types of components I should use, and how I should connect, which are the buses I should use, the different types of bus. All these things that will come under this architecture. The problem occurs is there are so many architectures are there in the market. One is control architecture, data path architecture, CISC, RISC, then single instruction, multiple data, SMID, multiple instruction, multiple data. See, all these are the different types of architectures are there in the system design. Which one I have to select for your embedded system? That is the question. whether I should use CISC. Okay, all these things, how to select, we'll discuss one by one this controller architecture, what is the use of this data path architecture, uh, everything we'll discuss this in the next class. Okay, and how which one to select, which language we have to select, whether we should select C, C++, Java, VSDL, Verilog, okay, and how to partition. After that, we'll discuss the different types of models in detail. Data flow, control flow, state machine, sequential. In detail, we'll discuss. Okay. Now, can send your attendance. If you don't have any doubts, you can exit.